Call it the search for God or salvation or spiritual enlightenment, the quest for meaning amid the chaos of the universe is probably as old as humanity itself. Today there are some 2,500 new religions in this country, and young people are being drawn to them in greater numbers than ever before. Some of these New Age faiths seem fairly innocuous, but critics charge that some of them are cults, sinister authoritarian movements that prey on the minds of their adherents. Before you or anyone you know becomes involved with such a group, you might want to give some serious thought to the cult question. Cult is a word that's tossed around rather loosely these days. Cult bands, cult movies, cult stars. The words become awfully vague. For the next half hour, we'll take a look at several new religions that have recently been labeled cults in the press. Leaders of these groups dislike the term cult, calling to mind as it may images of brainwashing, spiritual quackery, and the oddly attired panhandlers sometimes encountered in airports.
Hello, we'd like you to have this flower from the Church of Religious Consciousness. Would you like to make a donation?
No thanks, we gave it the office.
One group that appears relatively harmless is the Raelians, a giddy sect which believes that aliens are coming from outer space to unite the world in peace, and that spiritual harmony can best be achieved through nudity.
The nudity part is just freedom. Freedom to express yourself the way you want. It's so nice to take your clothes off and be free.
In this country, of course, the freedom to wait naked for space aliens is guaranteed by the First Amendment to the Constitution. And so the U.S. has been a fertile recruiting ground for outfits ranging from the Krishnas and the Moonies to the flower-wielding Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, denounced as a scam artist by one of his most famous followers, John Lennon, and the limo-loving Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh.
I believe in luxury. If I cannot make everybody to live in luxury, at least I can manage to live myself.
It's hard to get worked up about such characters, especially since most people who get sucked into cults bail out of them within a year. But some cults are no laughing matter. The Reverend Jim Jones, for example, who in 1978 led his People's Temple followers into the jungles of Guyana to commit mass suicide. Or the more recent and equally suicidal Solar Temple cult in Switzerland, and the apocalyptic Japanese cult Om Shinrikyo, which has been linked in the press with a poison gas subway attack.
I think we're starting to see some evidence of a growing public awareness of the problems that cults pose. I sincerely believe that the type of thing we're doing here, informing and educating the public, is really one of the most significant, most effective and important ways we can have an impact on the results that cults have on society.
Spearheading the anti-cult forces is the Cult Awareness Network, a group which is largely composed of ex-cult members and the distraught relatives of current new religion practitioners.
We're basically a source of information, a clearinghouse for information. Additionally, we can give support to people if they've been involved in a cult or they've got family members involved, but we're not able to actually get people out of cults.
That task is handled by self-proclaimed deprogrammers, whose methods of extricating people from these groups are sometimes condemned as kidnapping, but which they defend as a part of the battle against cult mind control. In fact, though, many psychologists and religious scholars contend that mind control doesn't exist.
The social science community did a fairly thorough examination of the whole idea of brainwashing and deprogramming, and concluded that brainwashing was something that really didn't happen.
Whether or not mind control exists, the power of certain groups to lead their followers in extreme directions seems real enough. Waco cult leader David Koresh, for example, convinced his followers that the end of the world was near. And after government agents showed up at his compound to confiscate illegal weapons, the cult's doomsday prophecy was fulfilled. Some critics contend that the Waco conflagration was the result of government bumbling, and more recently, the Waco incident may have prompted a right-wing terror bombing in Oklahoma City. Asked which new religion might generate the next Waco-style catastrophe, deprogrammer Rick Ross points a jittery finger at the Church Universal and Triumphant, a long-established community in the mountains of Montana, run by the ultimate church lady, Elizabeth Clare Prophet.
And I raise the sword of Serapis Soleil, for I am the defender of your purity.
I think that when you have an absolute authoritarian leader like Guru Ma, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who's predicted the end of the world periodically, And you create that kind of crisis mentality where you're building these multi-million-dollar bomb shelters. If they're building for Armageddon and they're stockpiling for Armageddon, maybe they're going to have a little David Koresh kind of Armageddon.
Contrary to Ross's view, however, the church hardly seems threatening. The prophet preaches that all religions contain universal truths and that ascended masters ranging from Jesus to Buddha speak through her.
I am the presence of perfection, living the life of God in man.
The church is also very patriotic and self-defense oriented, and some alarms did go off in 1989 when Edward Francis, the fourth husband of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, was arrested for attempting to purchase guns under a false name. Critics charged that the church was secretly stockpiling weapons. The following year, though, the church turned over all of its guns to the government in exchange for the return of its tax-exempt church status. So is this group dangerous? Well, according to Randy Little, an agent of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms who's based in Billings, Montana, and who, unlike Rick Ross, has actually visited the church ranch, the answer is a definite no. Nevertheless, we decided to see for ourselves, starting with a tour of one of the church's much talked about bomb shelters. Lead on.
Have they tested this out?
Canned food.
A lot of peanut butter. Sort of like a Motel 6. Wheelchair access.
Yeah.
So it's politically correct also. So these are the sleeping quarters. Has it happened that someone's noticed that their name isn't like on the list? Like, there's no bed for them? Well, I'd feel relatively safe down there. But one church bomb shelter was rather suspiciously declared off limits to us.
It is a fair amount of work to take people in there, and we thought that if we made a policy to do that and let people in, we would have to let everybody in, and the effort would be probably overwhelming to us.
Well, whatever. Strange as all of this may seem to some, it's life as usual to Tatiana Prophet, Guru Ma's daughter, a college graduate who grew up in the Church Universal and who seems none the worse for it.
It was really hard growing up. I would watch TV like the Brady Bunch and realizing that nobody ever talked about like Lord Buddha speaking through Mom. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire. I'm not normal, and I think that used to pain me. I thought I would be ostracized in school, and so I invented a new identity for myself. I was a mystery, a blank, wall. But I finally learned to be myself. I realized that I'm a freak in the good sense, the endearing sense, and I love being that way.
Tatiana Prophet is obviously sure of who she is. Less assured young people, however, are targeted every day by religious zealots seeking to convert the masses to their one true way of thinking. We'll examine such a group when we return with New Religions, the cult question.
I really need to talk about. I was invited to this cool party given by this girl whose sister used to date the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I was wearing this chartreuse micro mini rubber dress with my new Mary Janes, of course. And I have to admit, I was looking ultra fetching. And I see the most gorgeous guy, okay? He looked like Chris O'Donnell with a Keanu Reeves haircut, so I posed near the onion dip. But suddenly, this girl comes out of nowhere and grabs him by the arm, and this is the guy who was supposed to change my life. I got so depressed. I went over to the snack table and I grabbed a family-sized bag of those peanut chocolates, and I went into the bathroom and I ate the whole bag. The whole bag. Oh. I'm so weak.
Some faiths demand a devotion so total it's often indistinguishable from servitude. They want your time, your money. Essentially, they want to take over your life, not to mention the world.
Our ultimate goal is to evangelize every nation, every city, and every town.
These particular dreams of spiritual empire are those of the Fundamentalist International Church of Christ, or ICC, a group for which recruiting is crucial. Lots and lots of recruiting, much of it carried out at the direction of church elders by younger members. This emphasis on soliciting warm bodies has made the ICC one of the fastest growing new churches in the world. But it has also caused disillusioned former members and other Christians to question the group's deceptive recruiting practices and to charge that the ICC is a cult.
Come on, won't you join us today? Come on, won't you join us today?
I pray, Lord God, that we could just be filled with fire and zeal today, Lord God. Lord, I pray for the churches throughout the whole entire world, Lord, that we have come together as the International Churches of Christ to evangelize the world.
The true Church of Christ, to God be the glory.
I would definitely say that the Boston Church of Christ movement, or the International Churches of Christ, or however you want to refer to them now, is a cult.
Do you have an idea what an actual cult is?
I think a cult, more than anything, is a scare word.
It's not the strange-looking groups of the Eastern religious types or whatever, or the alien-believing type of groups. I think the greatest threat that's posing both the college campus and our society at large are these new Christian groups.
I was wondering if you'd be interested in, sitting down and studying the Bible with me sometime.
My name is Carmen. I'm part of a campus ministry here on campus, and we have Bible talks and Bible studies and stuff. And I'd love to invite you.
Groups such as the ICC have been accused of exploiting the human desire to belong to something by offering instant and unqualified friendship to new recruits, holding back the more rigid requirements of the faith until later.
We have a lot of fun, though, so if you want to come out, we have a blast.
College campuses are a rich source of lonely and homesick people. Take Kent State University near Cleveland, for example, where ICC student recruiters are tirelessly proselytizing their peers.
Are you interested in studying the Bible, or coming out to church with me, or what, man?
The folks certainly do target college students because students are an ideal and easy target. They're very idealistic. They're in the stage of kind of breaking away from their parents and establishing their own values, their own independence.
I think it's really important to let college students know that there's hope out there. Really show people that here's a purpose, here's something to live for. Here's a chance for you to get to know God. You know what? We're getting together this Friday. We're going to go sledding.
It's intentionally deceptive.
We're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
The goal is not what I'm presenting to you, that is to get to know you and be friends with you, but it's to get you into the organization so that you can be part of the recruiting process, and it's just not honest.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, get ready to rumble!
A recent addition to the ICC's campaign of targeting young people is the Upside Down Club in Los Angeles, an alcohol-free, hug-infested night spot that puts a hip face on old-line fundamentalism, offering Christian bands in every conceivable pop style and a few of the lesser worldly temptations.
The major temptations here, which is our cheesecake.
The Upside Down Club is basically a club where we can go as Christians and have fun, clean fun.
I was there protesting the opening of the Upside Down Club. I feel that it's just a vessel for them to create new recruits.
If it's something you're excited about, you're going to tell people. I love telling people. I love inviting people out. I want them to meet my friends. I want them to see my life.
When a new recruit comes into a room, they're overwhelmed by generous people looking forward to meeting them and excited about getting to know them. For people who are missing something in their life, this is really impactful.
Thanks for everybody coming out to Bible Talk here.
Former members say that the church soon begins demanding large and exhausting amounts of converts' time, which allows the group to gain increasing control over members' lives.
Tremendous amount of activities with the church. I was asked to attend a Sunday morning church service, a midweek church service, a Friday night college student devotional, a midweek Bible study. It was very rare that on any given day I wouldn't be involved in some activity with the church.
I don't think God can take over too much of your life. It's the way you live every single day of your life and everything that you do, and deciding whether or not you go to class, doing your homework.
Halfway through the semester I had to withdraw from classes, basically drop out of school because I was getting D's and F's. Because so much of my energy and time and commitment was focused on the church.
Hey! You either get faith today or you get out of the way.
Sinister authoritarian movements that prey on the minds of their adherents. Before you or anyone you know becomes involved with such a group, you might want to give some serious thought to the cult question. Cult is a word that's tossed around rather loosely these days. Cult bands, cult movies, cult stars. The words become awfully vague. The next half hour, we'll take a look at several new religions that have recently been labeled cults in the Aliens, a giddy sect which believes that aliens are coming from outer space to unite the world in peace, and that spiritual harmony can best be achieved through nudity.
The nudity part is just freedom. Freedom to express yourself the way you want. It's so nice to take your clothes off and be free.
In this country, of course, the freedom to express. Leaders of these groups dislike the term cult, calling to mind as it may images of brainwashing, spiritual quackery, and the oddly attired panhandlers sometimes encountered in airports.
Hello, we'd like you to have this flower from the Church of Religious Consciousness. Would you like to make a donation?
No thanks, we gave it the office.
One group that appears relatively harmless is the rail. Call it the search for God or salvation or spiritual enlightenment. The quest for meaning amid the chaos of the universe is probably as old as humanity itself. Today there are some 2,500 new religions in this country, and young people are being drawn to them in greater numbers than ever before. Some of these New Age faiths seem fairly innocuous, but critics charge that some of them are cults.